All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're tackling the absolute essentials of German, the stuff you will use every single day. We're talking numbers, dates, and time. Seriously, these are the fundamental building blocks for having any kind of real-world conversation. So let's do this. I mean, just think about it for a second. How are you going to book that train ticket for the right day? How do you make sure your meeting is at 9:30 and not, 10? Or hey, how you order 2 cappuccinos instead of accidentally asking for 10? Yep, it all comes down to this stuff right here. And over the next few minutes, we're going to get you so comfortable with it that you can handle all those situations with total confidence. Let's start with the absolute foundation. First things first, we got to build our foundation with German numbers. Now, some of this is going to feel pretty familiar, but trust me, there is one key twist that you absolutely have to know. Okay, so here's the logic. The numbers from 1 to 12, well, they're unique. You just got to memorize them, like 7 for 7. No big deal. Then from 13 to 19, it's super easy. You just tack on Zane at the end. So 9 becomes 19. Simple, right? But here comes the twist. For any number from 21 on up, Germans say them backwards. Let's break this down with the number 23. In English, we say 23, but in German, you literally say 3 and 20. You can see it right here. You start with drei, then you add und, and finish with 20. Smash it all together, and you get 23. I know it feels weird at first, but once you get that right-to-left logic in your head, it really does become second nature. And hey, the cool thing is, this makes simple math pretty straightforward. The words are actually super similar to English. So if you wanted to say 6 plus 7 equals 13, you just say 6 plus 7 sind 13. Easy as that. Okay, so we've got the basic numbers down. Now let's add a layer of precision. How do we get from saying 3 to saying the third? This is where ordinal numbers come into play, and they are absolutely key for talking about dates. These are what we call ordinal numbers. Now, the general rule is pretty simple. For most numbers, you just add a te ending. So the second patient becomes der zweite Patient. Now, of course, there are a few little exceptions, like the first is der erste, and for any number 20 or higher, you use stay. So the 21st of May becomes der 21. Mai. So let's put this into practice with a real date. Remember, in Germany, it's day, then month, then year. So this date right here becomes der 3. Februar, that's using the special ordinal for 3, 2024. See how it all stacks together? The number rules and the ordinal rules, they just click into place. All right, we've got numbers, we've got dates. Now for the final piece of this puzzle, telling time. And in German, there are two main ways to do this, and you're going to hear both of them all the time. Let's take a look at 8:15. Now, the official way, the one you'll see on train schedules and news reports, is super simple. You just say the numbers, 8:15 Uhr. But in everyday conversation, you're much, much more likely to hear the colloquial way, Vierte nach 8, which literally means a quarter after 8. Let's try another one, 16:45, or a quarter to 5. Again, the official time is just literal, 16:45. But colloquially, you just say Viertel vor 5, which means a quarter to 5. Honestly, mastering quarter past and quarter to is probably your biggest key to sounding like a native speaker. Okay, hang with me for a quick but really important grammar point. It turns out that how you talk about time can actually change your sentence structure. It all boils down to one simple question. Are you talking about how long something takes or when, specifically, it happens? This little chart breaks it down perfectly. If you're talking about a duration, how long something lasts, the phrasing is really direct. I'm staying for 1 week is just Ich bleibe eine Woche. But if you're talking about a specific point in time, like when something happens, you'll often use a preposition like am. So we're meeting in the evening becomes Wir treffen uns am Abend. It's a subtle difference, but it's a really powerful one. So we've covered numbers, dates, official time, colloquial time, and even a little bit of grammar. You have all the tools you need, so now let's prove it. Let's decode a real German sentence together. Okay, take a look at this. It's a sentence from a scientific text. I know it might look a little intimidating, but I promise you, you already have every single skill you need to understand every number, date, and time reference in here. Let's just break it down piece by piece. Let's just start with the very first number we see in there, 24. And in the sentence, that's 24 Proben, 4 and 20. See? That's our backwards rule from the very beginning. You totally know this. Okay, what's next? Oh, the date. Am 3. Mai 2024. It's not 3 May, it's the 3rd of May, using that ordinal number rule we just talked about. Perfect. In the time? 9:30 Uhr. That's just our simple, literal, official time for 9:30. Super straightforward. And finally, we see dauerte 2 Stunden. It lasted for 2 hours. That's a duration, right? Not a specific point in time. And just like that, you've completely decoded the entire time-based structure of a pretty complex German sentence. That is fantastic. So there you have it. You've just mastered the language of when in German. You can now schedule things, talk about dates, and quantify your world. The only question left is, now that you know when, are you ready to tackle where? Maybe with German prepositions next. That's all for this one. Well done. Numbers, dates, and time. You know, they're the absolute building blocks of any language. But in German, they've got these fascinating little twists that can trip up even people who've been speaking it for a while. So today, we are going to crack that code. We're going to master those quirks so you can handle the German clock and calendar with total confidence. Let's jump right in. Okay, so let's start with a quick question. How would you say 21 in German? Now, if you're thinking 21, just like in English, that makes a lot of sense. But it's not quite how it's done. See, German kind of asks you to think about numbers a little differently, almost backwards. We're going to unravel exactly what that means right now. All right, first things first, we've got to build our foundation. We're going to start with the absolute basics of counting, all the way from 1 up to 99. And it's right here that we're going to find the first big, and I mean big, rule you need to know. So just like in English, the first 12 numbers are their own unique words. You've got 1, 2, 3, and so on, all the way up to 11 and 12. These are the ones you just kind of have to memorize. But once you've got them down, you're all set for the patterns to kick in. Next up, the tens. We've got 20 for 20, 30 for 30, 40 for 40. You're probably already hearing that pattern, right? It's usually the base number with a zig tacked on the end. Just keep an eye out for a couple tiny spelling changes, like in 60 and 70. And here it is. This is the big one, the rule that answers our first question. For any number from 21 all the way to 99, you say the single-digit number first, then you say und, which means and then you say the tens place. I know, it feels totally backwards at first, but I promise once it clicks, it's there for good. Let's break it down with the number 24. Step 1, you say the 4, which is vier. Step 2, you add und for and. And step 3, you add the 20, which is 20. Slam it all together, and what do you get? 24, 4 and 20. It's as simple as that. So that means 21 is 21, 1 and 20. See? You know, the source material gives us a perfect little phrase to remember this. Merke, die Einer stehen vor den Zehnern. Basically, it's telling you to remember one critical thing. The ones always come before the tens. If you can lock that single idea into your brain, you've pretty much conquered a huge part of German numbers. So, with the double digits out of the way, it's time to go big. Let's see how this system scales up into the hundreds, thousands, and beyond. And while we're at it, we're going to uncover a major pitfall that can lead to some really big misunderstandings. Now, the really big numbers are actually pretty straightforward. 100 is 100. 1,000 is 1,000. 1,000,000 is 1,000,000. So far, so good. But I want you to pay very close attention to those last two, because this is where things get really, really tricky. And here it is, what we call a classic false friend between English and German. What we as English speakers call a billion, that's 1,000 million, is eine Milliarde in German. So what's eine Billion in German? That's what we would call a trillion. Yeah, getting this one wrong could literally be a billion-dollar mistake. And hey, here's a quick pro tip for anyone working with math or science. In German, the decimal separator isn't a period, it's a comma. So the number pi isn't 3.14, it's 3,14. It's a small detail, but it's absolutely vital.
Okay, now let's talk about putting these numbers in some kind of order. We're talking about ordinal numbers, first, second, third, and so on. And why is this so important? Well, you really can't talk about dates without them.
The rule for making ordinal numbers is actually beautifully simple. For any number from 1 up to 19, you just added th ending. And for any number from 20 upwards, you add an s ending. That's really the heart of it.
And you can see that rule in action right here. The eighth is der Achte. From 20 on up, you see der Zwanzigste and der Hundertste. Now, you do have to watch out for a couple of important irregular ones, mainly der Erste for first and der Dritte for third. All right, let's put all these numbers to work and start telling time. The thing is, in German, there are two totally different systems. You've got the official 24-hour clock, and then you have the much more common, informal way that people actually talk to each other. The formal system, the one based on the 24-hour clock, is refreshingly easy. You just say the hour number, then the word or, and then the minutes. That's it. So 1:15 in the afternoon, or 13:15, is just 13 or 15. You'll hear this for train schedules, official announcements, anywhere precision is key. It's crystal clear. But in just everyday conversation, a completely different system takes over. Let's take 3:30 p.m. Formally, sure, it's 15:30 Uhr, but you're way more likely to hear someone say halb vier. And yes, that literally translates to 3:30. So what's going on there? This is probably one of the most important concepts to get. Halb vier doesn't mean 4:30. It means you are halfway to 4 o'clock. So it's 3:30. In German, in formal time, you're always thinking about the next hour you're approaching. It's a total mental shift from the English way of saying half past, but once it clicks, it really does make perfect sense. Okay, for our final section, let's bring it all together. We're going to combine our numbers and our ordinals to tackle dates, so you can structure your calendar just like a native German speaker would. Here's a quick little grammar key you're going to need. When you're talking about a specific day of the week, you use the preposition like Montag. And when you're talking about a month, you use im, as in im Mai. Simple as that. So the standard way to write dates in Germany is day first, then month, then year. And when you say the date out loud, you use those ordinal numbers we just learned. So May 3rd, 2025 becomes am 3. Mai 2025. And one last tip on saying the years. For any year before the year 2000, you usually say it in hundreds. So 1980 becomes 1980, which is literally 1980. But for 2000 and any year after, you say it as one big number, like 2025 for 2025. And that really brings us to the end of the hard and fast rules. It's interesting. The source material uses this beautiful literary phrase, eines Tages. It means one day, and it's often how you start a fairy tale or a story. It's a great reminder that language isn't just about rules, right? It's about telling stories. And with that, you have cracked the code. You've got the essentials of German numbers, dates, and time. But you might have noticed those little words from before, and im. They're actually the first clue to a much deeper system, Germany's infamous grammar cases. How do those work? Well, that's a story for another time. A story for eines Tages. For now, congratulations on mastering the numbers.